Hey, random stranger. I hope you're looking forward to more Odd Taxi. I am, even though some of the stories so far are just downright depressing. Watching this show is like observing people trapped in a quiet, personal hell of their own, whether they know it or not. We all have our own personal hells, some more pronounced than others. And I think what Odd Taxi does well is make us recognize parts of ourselves in these characters, including the ones who are really spiraling. We should start with Tanaka. At its core, I think what ate at Tanaka was feeling like he had nothing that makes him special or worthy of respect. You know, it was that emptiness that ended up driving a lot of his life choices. The tragedy is that I think Tanaka always knew that. Even as a kid who was trying to one-up Sato, who's the mole kid, he understood that it wasn't really about the erasers. It was instead about having something that made him actually matter to other people. Throughout his retelling of the story, he is very self-aware that it's his lack of self-worth that drove him to do things that don't really make sense and feel things that are somewhat out of proportion to what's actually happening. But seeing that clearly didn't stop him from making those self-destructive choices. For example, when he won the Donraku eraser auction, he painted it as this heroic revolution, that he'd finally stuck it to the system that gave him nothing. And then when it turned out to be a scam and his dad beat the shit out of him, he initially tried to contextualize his failure in terms of the entire history of mankind. You know, everything that has led to this low point had been beyond his control. His upbringing, his very obvious lack of natural talents, and all of the other choices that other people had made that created this unfair system. But ultimately, he recognized that he'd also made some choices. So even as a kid, he had been pretty clear-eyed about his predicament and the role that he himself had played to get to this very low point. Fast forward to adulthood and he was doing the same thing with this game, Zuden. He's chasing this super rare special dodo, the same bird as his childhood eraser, at whatever cost. He framed it as his destiny to have this bird, but honestly, that just sounded more like another narrative he used to cover up a far less glamorous reality, which is that his addictive behavior was just him trying to fill the emptiness that he's felt since childhood. So the way that Tanaka told his story was very important. He knows that his crushing despair over an eraser that never actually came, or a mobile game, or, you know, the lengths that he went to get back at Ditch 11 sounds absurd. So he first describes a very dramatic event, you know, and paints himself as this desperate soul who's aspiring to greater heights. But then he'd pull back, you know, and say, well, actually, that's kind of an exaggeration and a lie, before offering a truer, less glamorous, less dramatic interpretation of events, which is that he's sick. You know, he's sick with addiction, which again arose from a lack of self-worth. Tanaka's constant self-correction shows how, you know, we're all to some extent unreliable narrators of our own lives, not because we're deliberately flat out lying, but because we're simultaneously living the experience while also trying to make the events make sense to it, both ourselves and to other people. The truth keeps shifting as we try to frame the events in different ways. That makes Tanaka actually surprisingly relatable. You know, most of us have experienced deep pain over things that objectively seem quite small. And then we feel ashamed that our suffering doesn't match societal expectations of what actually deserves to hurt that much. So we inflate the story, you know, we dramatize the circumstances to justify the size and the depth of our emotions because we're scared of being dismissed if we admit that, yes, I did feel suicidal despair over something relatively small. We constantly negotiate between the stories we think we should tell about ourselves, you know, to make our emotional responses in the moment more acceptable to others versus the raw truth of what actually happened and how it made us feel. I think the show handled Tanaka's descent into addictive behavior with this very uncomfortable, brutal honesty. When he added 100,000 yen to his Zuden account, the same amount that he lost to the scammer, that seemed symbolic. You know, he's at a stage in his life where he can afford to just add 100,000 yen to a mobile game. So in that sense, his life situation has kind of improved, but in fact, he's gone backwards in all of the other aspects that really matters, including his sense of purpose. Because 4 years later, he'd poured 5 million yen into Zuden, and he's lost his grip on life outside of that game. The goal of getting the dodo had far outstripped any rational cost-benefit analysis, but again, it was never about actually getting the thing. It was about proving his life wasn't a complete waste. And then Odokawa's reckless driving caused him to lose the dodo, and that's when, quote-unquote, the blue flame inside him came to life. I took that to mean that any hope that he'd had of proving that his life hadn't been a complete waste died in that moment. And then nihilism just rushed in to fill that gaping hole. Existential nihilism holds that life has no intrinsic meaning or purpose. Not that life is worthless, but that any meaning has to be created by individuals themselves rather than discovered somewhere out there in the universe. My guess is that Tanaka came to that nihilist conclusion, but then responded in the darkest possible way. Namely, that if the universe offers no meaning for him, and he's also incapable of generating it himself, and not for lack of trying, like he's tried really hard to achieve something, to be someone, then nothing really matters. And if nothing matters, then nothing, including murdering the guy who did this to him, is wrong. So he stops taking responsibility for how his life has turned out. Unlike earlier as a kid when he blamed himself for his own failures, now it really is all rigged. You know, it's this system that was designed to keep him down from the very, very beginning with no real way out. And if he's not to blame for his suffering, then he can't be blamed for his response to it. And if his response is violence, then so what? You know, so violence therefore becomes not just permissible, but morally justified, which is why he describes the impulse to attack as more exciting and justified the less you are to blame. Tanaka's story hits pretty hard for today's world. One way I saw it is, you know, the rising cost of living means that more people than ever are struggling just to stay afloat, while comparison steals everyone's joy, especially online when you're constantly comparing your own shitty life to other people's seemingly perfect ones. And then it's no wonder that people convince themselves that the system is rigged against them specifically, you know, because for some people it kind of is. For Tanaka, actually, he'd been losing at the game of life since pretty much the day he was born. A quick detail that kind of went by really fast, but is really important to understand the context of Tanaka's choices, was how he made this point about how his dad's credit card was the kind that students use, you know, signaling that his family actually really wasn't well off, which explains why his dad beat the crap out of him over the eraser, because they really couldn't afford to waste that kind of money. But his parents still bought expensive games for his older brother. And I think that blatant favoritism made it very painfully clear to Tanaka that even within his own struggling family, he wasn't valued as much as he should have been. And understandably, that would mess someone up and explains a lot of why he was so desperate for external validation. On to Mystery Kiss. I think the stories of each of the girls reveal, in different ways, an industry that is built on exploiting young people, but then dresses it up as this really amazing opportunity. So the manager used Odokawa to pick them up. And when Mitsuya was talking about, you know, her mom's fried chicken, there was that sad, homesick look that kind of just flashed across her face. It was a small detail, but it really hit that she is so young and yet she's so far from home. And she's being roped into the shadier side of the business because next thing we know, she's helping Tanaka place a tracking device on Odokawa's taxi. We have no idea what her connection is to Tanaka unless I missed something. But clearly, she should not be involving herself in what is a very murderous mission. I mean, she probably doesn't know, but still, she's a child doing the dirty work for adults. To say nothing of the fact that her manager is just using her to promote another girl. Yeah, that manager is one slimy dude. On the outside, he treats them really well. Like he buys them bath salts and karaage chicken and talks a big talk about managing their emotions and supporting their dreams. But then the truth came out when he was alone in the taxi with Odokawa. Basically, his business model boils down to use the normies to help sell the special one. It's an ugly, calculated approach to managing talent. And he also has this very inflated sense of self-importance, but again, unsurprising. History is littered with managers who don't really see their talents as people. They're more like commodities to be used and then discarded when they're no longer useful. I think Ichimura's situation really highlights like the depravity of that industry and that outlook, because she is definitely being pimped out by the company to fleece older men like Kakihana. Having said that, the show doesn't let her completely off the hook. Like, she is old enough to know what she's doing, but it does contextualize how grooming works, how the entertainment industry picks their marks and then creates these conditions where young people feel like they have to do these terrible things in order to survive or in order to get ahead. Does being desperate to succeed excuse scammer behavior? No, but understanding how a girl like Ichimura ends up in the situation that she is in right now also matters. Onto our other lives of quiet desperation. So we have Kakihana, there's hippo kid Taichi, and then there's the old comedian Shibagaki. The three of them look completely different on the surface and seem to be in different life stages, but there is a common thread linking them all. And that is that they're all people destroying themselves in some way for a validation that probably isn't even worth it. Kakihana, as we know, is spending money that he doesn't have on Ichimura. He took out a 100,000 yen loan at a very, very high interest rate. The same amount actually that Tanaka lost to his scammer. So there was another neat parallel there. I mean, like Tanaka, Kakihana just wants to be seen, to be accepted. The fact that his so-called relationship with Ichimura is so not grounded in reality really doesn't matter. His need for validation overrides everything. Meanwhile, there's Taichi, idiot Taichi, who tapped into the online outrage business by making a video about kicking Dobu's ass that then went viral while doxing himself in the process. It was made in that very clickbait style that we all immediately recognize. There's this bold, alarmist text with no concern for factual accuracy. It's just pure fear-mongering. And it works. He hits 1 million subscribers and now basically thinks himself a god. He's addicted to the attention despite probably knowing deep down that he's barreling into a life-threatening situation just for the views. You've got to think that he's lying awake at night. Obsessed about thoughts of how to grow his following, but also scared shitless that there's probably a deadly gangster out there who's gunning for him. I don't know, he could also just be absolutely clueless. Taichi is like the younger, more online version of Shibagaki, who literally walked up to Tanaka during his shooting rampage. Not because he's brave or anything, but because he's desperate to be relevant. Later, when he said it's okay to hurt one person to make 10 people laugh, that reminded me of every controversy baiting content creator. People who create these dangerous or very uncomfortable situations, either for themselves or for other people, solely for the purpose of clout, and then justifying it as entertainment or art. There was zero shame in milking the shooting incident on his radio show afterwards. So the through line with all three of these guys is that they're really, in my view, harming themselves, putting themselves or others at risk just to chase attention or fame and just wider acceptance from the world. Similar to Tanaka, actually, the tragedy is that they're at least semi-aware that it's probably not worth it, that they might be digging a deeper hole for themselves, but they just can't help it. Baba seems to be the one outlier in Odd Taxi. Success kind of just found him whether he planned for it to or not. He also seems like a pretty decent guy who hasn't been chewed up and spit out by the world. What was weird though was how Nikaido seems threatened by his success. It's like she wants him to stay her loyal supporter in the background while she climbs the ladder. Naturally, I think Baba is possibly suppressing that kind of icky, uncomfortable feeling you get when you start to suspect that your partner maybe loves you for being the person that they want you to be instead of who you actually are. The more we learn about Odokawa, the more complex he becomes, at least to me. He's scared of water, which seems tied to more childhood trauma beyond just the car accident that we already know about. He pushed Miho away, but then still clearly cares about her. When Skunk Guy offered him a lot of money, he refused to take it, even though he really could have used it. Maybe it was pride or the fear of owing people favors, or maybe just that accepting help would mean admitting that he needs help, that he is vulnerable. When Tanaka's gun went off, Odokawa paused, like he actually considered going back to help whoever it was that could have gotten shot. Just another example of how Odokawa is less afraid than he really should be, but ultimately still does experience fear underneath it all. As Goriki observed, Goriki, by the way, is back. I think he was kind of just sorting out his clinic business. Odokawa is way more involved in other people's lives now. That isolation that he's been used to for so long is starting to show cracks, which also neatly ties into the conversation that Miho forced him to have with her in the park when she explained her situation using the broken window theory, which is that one crack, one vulnerability led her to borrow money from Dobu, which led her to being involved with him, which led to being trapped in this abusive relationship and then forced to be an accomplice to his crimes. She was describing her own spiral, but she could have just as easily been describing Odokawa's as well. One trauma leading to isolation, which led to emotional numbness, which then led to this dangerous detachment to the value of his own life. I still really like Miho. I find her story really compelling and sad, and it's really easy to sympathize with her. I know Odokawa still cares for her deep down, but I also understand why he wasn't able to just open his heart up to her or to really show a lot of sympathy for her situation. I think they're just two very, very broken people who hopefully can find a way to not only open up to each other, but to kind of accept each other for who they are. Let's just recap what we know about the missing girl. CCTV footage from episode 1 showed a black cat girl that really matches Mitsuya's description. And Mitsuya is from Oita, which is the same place that Kakihana mentioned. And I don't know if that was a coincidence. We know that Odokawa drove a girl to the Kami Meguro office, likely the missing girl, which means that she was also part of Mystery Kiss because they're the only group that studio manages. And then the manager's demand for the recording device suggests that he's also involved or covering up whatever crime happened and that he is also likely connected to Yano. But then the thing that I really can't wrap my head around or can't make sense of is that all 3 Mystery Kiss members are accounted for. So if the missing girl was also part of Mystery Kiss, where is she? Or who was she? You know, is there some secret 4th Mystery Kiss member? Presumably the boss's classmate is still looking for his daughter, but if she is one of the Mystery Kiss girls, wouldn't he just kind of show up at their studio? Unless he doesn't know that she joined Mystery Kiss, in which case Mitsuya would be his daughter because, you know, I guess when she covers up her face, she's unrecognizable. Also, when Ichimura talked about Nikaido, she made this very loaded comment about how she's probably killed someone to get ahead. You know, was that her projecting, maybe even an indirect admission of murder? And then unrelated to all of this, or is it? I also realized that the Donraku eraser that Miho gave Odokawa is probably somewhere in his house. So if Tanaka snoops around, he'll think that Ditch 11 was Odokawa and get even more mad. The coincidences are really stacking up in a way that feels both inevitable and tragic. Just one final comment about like the genius of Odd Taxi. I think the mystery is cool to try and figure out and all, but it's also kind of just the scaffolding that forces the lives of these various desperate people to collide with each other. Most of our characters are struggling with some kind of unfulfilled need, whether that's a need for meaning or recognition or just kind of escape from a very mundane life. They keep chugging along, sometimes self-destructively, wishing for something to change. And when it doesn't change, they snap. I feel like the show understands that modern alienation is about being surrounded by people and yet still feeling like you're alone and drowning. Or chasing validation that when you get it, feels empty. The idol industry promises fame, but instead it kind of just exploits you. Games promise a sense of achievement, but then they just leave you addicted. Social media promises being seen, but is just this false sense of connection to a bunch of random strangers who really don't care about you that much. That's not always the case. Like, things can turn out well and you can find genuine connection through online means, but Odd Taxi definitely shows the other darker side of all of these modern phenomena. The only character not really chasing external validation, I feel, is Odokawa, but I think that's only because he's already hit rock bottom. And on that happy note, let's start episode 7 if you guys are ready. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, play. It's episode 7 and we still haven't met Yano yet. I kind of just wonder if he's going to be this, shadowy figure that we never actually meet face to face. There's a bit of a parallel there, like the drowning figure at the beginning, and then Odokawa, who also seems to have had some kind of drowning incident. Ha! Yeah, see. Ah, Taichi. Reality never matches up to online fame. Gunshot? Oh, what are you doing, man? Oh, man. That's 10 years of debt in that little box. Oh, he's not been paying his interest. Yeah, because your bro's shady. Maybe the little bro is actually going to do some good work when he's away from his brainwashing bro. Then who are you talking to, Odokawa? Ah, Tanaka's messing with him. Damn. That was a lot of, like, loose bullets. To help people. Close enough. Oh, wait, we've seen this in the flashback. Oh, wait, what if. Because Odokawa was in the back of the taxi. What if the driver of the taxi Odokawa was in was the hit and run driver? And Big Dama knew that. He's gonna rob a bank. I don't know if his brain can handle like shades of grey. Odokawa just taking charge. Or maybe it's because he wants to get at Odokawa. Odokawa's just running circles around him. No. No, you don't want the same things. I love how Odokawa's just kind of drawing out the whole plot so far. Cross out. I mean, I don't think he wants to mention her because she's also been involved in some dodgy business too. Mind blown. Because you're not exactly good in my books. It's like, how can someone who's good be doing something bad? Yes, please look in the closet. Ah, it's the body from the beginning. I mean, he's convinced him enough to not tell Big Diamond about what's going on. Kakihana, you are dead meat. It's so they're making Odokawa out as if he's talking to the missing girl. I don't know, but they're also painting him um out as a bit disturbed. I don't know. It's weird. What if he's actually the murderer? It's been a month. I mean, relationship is a very broad term. It covers all manners of sin. It's so sad that it had to be Dobu to do that. Like, she had no power to quote unquote dissolve their relationship. Wait, a brain scan? Does he imagine things? I mean, I know he has vision issues, but did Goriki kind of just imply that he also has some kind of mental health issue where he imagines things that aren't there? Oh no, this is so bad. This is. Why would you meet her here? Ah, that's so bad. Man, you feel so bad for her. Maybe she, I don't know, maybe she joined the idol group and then later found out that this is what they have to do to stay in the group. And then by then, she was too scared to really say no. Oh, there we go. He's here. No. Is he gonna speak like this the whole time? What if this is what he does? Like his sheep battles he does isn't actually violent. He gets all the violence out through his rhymes. That is really annoying though. She knows him. Oh, Nikaido. Oh man. Okay. Okay, we feel bad for her, right? Like really bad, Ichimura. She's in way too deep. I mean, hmm. I mean, that's kind of an interesting power or like sensitivity. Nikaido, I mean, she probably was in Ichimura's situation at the start too, but she's kind of just thrown her hands up and like, well, just go with it, right? Ugh, is he gonna crack? It's an awful thing to learn about your hero, who also happens to be like your twin. Oh man, this guy. That's not it. Oh, oh my god. Why the clown face? I mean, he is a bit of a clown. So I guess Yano is part of the branch who manages the studio. I mean, it makes sense. He fancies himself a bit of a rap star. I can't treat him seriously because he's just rapping everything. Oh no. No, Kakihana. What was I saying before about Nikaido? That girl has dead eyes, you know. I think she's been in the industry obviously longer than Ichimura has and has attained some level of success. And so she's actually made peace with the fact that she's involved in this super dodgy criminal organization because they're the ones who are going to give her or who gave her her leg up in the idol industry. So the fact that she can turn on Ishimura and not take a side and be completely unsympathetic about how she just wants out of, you know, scamming old guys is kind of understandable, given that she probably was also targeted in the same way, you know, being young and idealistic. Like, I think I'm much more amenable to being generous with how the girls got involved in this business just because they're young. It's totally possible that Ichimura very happily decided to participate in the criminal side of things because that's just a character and she actually is a very awful person. But I wouldn't discount the likelihood that she also started out pretty naive, thinking that, you know, this was her ticket to fame. And then she kind of just became involved with the criminal underworld, and she was like, well, I either throw all of my hard work away or I just kind of find a way to make this work. The other interesting revelation was the fact that Goriki is looking at Odokawa's brain scan and is like, okay, we're going to have to heal him. That leads to the question, what exactly is Odokawa suffering from that affects how his brain works? Goriki didn't seem to be referring to his vision issues. I think it's more either it's a mental health issue or it's an actual physical impairment to do with the brain that impacts how he thinks about things. And what added to that, I guess, medical mystery is the fact that as soon as the news reported that the body of a girl between her teens and 30s, like it's a very big age range, but I think it's safe to say that it is probably the body of the missing girl and therefore the body of the boss's classmate's daughter. Once that was out on the news and he saw it, Odokawa immediately turned to the closet and was like, well, now you can't hide. So is he actually imagining that night the girl came home with him when in fact he actually had just dropped her off at the office and that was the last anyone ever saw of her? And because of that huge guilt that he feels for dropping her off to the place where potentially she met her death, is he kind of imagining that he in fact saved her and brought her home and that she's living in his closet? And this whole time he was actually hoping that she made it. But then when it was confirmed that she died, he was like, well, shit, you can't escape now because now we know that you're actually dead. That would be an interesting reveal, I think, and would really show how Odokawa has this whole internal world going on inside his head that other people can't see, that makes sense to him, but is also his way of kind of coping with the trauma that he's been through and kind of the trauma of the world that constantly imposes on his life. It would also be consistent with his not savior complex, but his strong desire for justice and to save people, that if he failed to save this one person, that it would manifest as him creating her in his mind so that he could cope with the failure to save her. Huh. Oh man, I think Taichi's going to end up in a body bag as well. But yeah, episode 8. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, play. Let's see if we can find any more clues in the OP. Yeah, because he didn't actually. Well, the cat didn't actually go home with him, I guess. Is Yano rapping this? It's so bizarre how he just raps everything. There's Goriki and like Miho trying to diagnose him and I guess cure him of whatever it is that he's suffering from. Oh god. I mean, the translation actually rhymes a lot of the time. Oh man, okay, you gotta feel bad for Kakihana. Yes. Mm. And then he calls Yano, and Yano's like, yeah, sure, that's just chump change. Oh, Ichimura. You start to feel bad for everyone. Surely Odokawa knows who she is. Oh, I guess not. It's gonna make the call. I mean, they could also just take it from him by force, I guess. Damn, Odokawa's playing with fire. Laying down some new beats. Man, even in this moment, he's delusional. Oh, this is so, so painful. Shut up, shut up. Ugh. Oh man, this is where he breaks, right? Kakihana. He's right there. It's weird that they can't tell from the very like conspicuous, shape. Oh. So his vision's impaired, but then his other senses are enhanced. Hmm. Oh. Yo, what an outfit. Oh, wow. When the Homo sapiens were actually, popular. uh, he's 38, so he's 41 now. Damn. Damn, that's harsh. I mean, sometimes you can tell the person's a doctor. It's screaming, I want to study this guy. Hmm. It's Don Raku again. Okay, so she can't tell based on the shape. So maybe that photo is not actually what is there. It's just what's in Odokawa's head. Like he sees auras or something. Wait, she doesn't know. So she can't see what's going on. Why couldn't the shop owner see unless there's like different, like, llamas around? Otherwise, Yano will make a rap about you. So they were behind the murder of the girl. Oh, he's so full of himself. I mean, they don't know that Kakihana is friends with Odokawa, right? Oh, this is so awful. It's just. Okay, so they're planning to rob Skunk Guy. It's so stupid. He should just cash that. He should never have posted his lottery ticket online. But then everyone in the show is dumb. Ugh, including this guy. Damn it, just milking it, man. Oh, but it's because of Odokawa's special power. I mean, of course, I'm surprised that I would be surprised if he didn't have haters. Just kicking back, having a few beers together like best mates. Oh, hang on. So he can't recognize it either, but Odokawa would. Oh god. It's gonna send it to Little Daimon. Mm-hmm. This guy would. Someone that he is also connected to through his taxi. I mean, he's not as dumb as he looks. I mean, wasn't that super dodge? Just putting your hand in your pocket to press something. No, he's totally made himself at home. Oh man, so dangerous. It's warning him. This is the worst decision ever. Mm-hmm. Man, Odokawa helping him big time. Ugh. I mean, because it's not an appearance, it's words. Taichi? So the fascinating thing that kept coming up over and over again in that episode was the fact that only Odokawa can recognize people very clearly from very distinctive shapes. So what's actually in the photos that we see, like for example, that photo with Kakihana's outline or silhouette in it, it's not clear to other normal people that it is who Odokawa knows it is. So that's kind of making me think that everything that we're seeing on screen isn't actually what appears in reality. Everyone actually is a normal person, but Odokawa somehow attaches these shapes to them, like animal shapes to them, very distinctive shapes, because he kind of senses or smells them, you know, like his olfactory senses have been enhanced because of his synesthesia. And it just manifests as animals, which is why we can see them very clearly because we're seeing it from Odokawa's perspective. But to everyone else, like Oriki, like the shop owner, they're like, no, I don't know who that is. Like, it's just a person. That's fascinating. So Yano is in play now. Both he and Dobu are trying to get the dash cam footage. I mean, Dobu already has it, but he's trying to make Yano pay for it by enticing him to rob Skunk Guy. Sorry, I still don't know his name, but Skunk Guy of the 1 billion yen that he won from the lottery. Dobu's goal is to show up Yano. I guess he's trying to make Yano rob the guy during the exchange at the bank, and then somehow he stuffs that up. I don't know, I guess he'll tip off the police or something. I mean, he'll just call Big Time One, I guess. Yano definitely knows what he's up to, and I don't know how this is all gonna pan out. If Dobu pulls this off, I mean, Yano could potentially be just offed as well, because it sounds like he was responsible for disappearing that missing girl who is the boss's classmate's daughter. I think it's a testament to the show's writing that I feel very, very badly for both Kakihana, who is in just the pits of the pits right now. The call that he had with his mom that Yano made him do was just absolutely just really hard to sit through. And I also feel really bad for Ichimura. You know, somehow I feel bad for both parties in this whole scam of a relationship. Episode 9, here we go. I mean, I guess we'll see whether Odokawa can save everyone. Technically, he saved Miho. I just get this feeling that he will be able to pull it off, like get all the criminals in the end, but somehow not be able to save himself. I don't know, just a hunch. Here we go, episode 9 in 3, 2, 1, play. We never skip this OP. It was interesting that Goriki mentioned how the fact that he is talking to an imaginary friend is a sign that his stress is increasing a lot beyond normal. I mean, it makes total sense, you know, just being embroiled in this mess of a situation that threatens your life. And he's not even aware of like Tanaka. I mean, he knows that someone is after him and it's shooting holes into his wall. I don't know. It just feels like it's building up towards a not very great end for Odokawa. Little Daimon. Is he? I mean, he is kind of a like justice vigilante. I mean, I guess he's learning that there are shades of grey. Sometimes you have to do the wrong thing to do the right thing. But you know he won't because he's a coward. I thought he was just a kid. I mean, I guess he's university kid. Oh no, he's gonna like punch her or something. Oh, oh, whoa, that escalated so fast. But again, it's just you could just see it happening, right? It's so interesting that he has already put all the blame of the predicament he's in onto the world and none of his choices that he made. Like, he's following them. No, you've got to rap with him. You can't just talk to him. Uh, no! That track is still on his taxi, isn't it? And this track is awesome. I mean, don't you have another gun, Dobu? Like, come on, where's your backups? Person? Oh, it wasn't a cat, it was a person. Damn, it's really hurt. I mean, that's an interesting take. Or this one. The criminal code. I mean, my money's on Dobu. I mean, what were you trying to do, man? In that toilet. Yeah. Odokawa's not even gonna help. They're animals. Ah, the irony. I mean, I guess Dobby did tell him to just take Kakihana and leave. No! Ah, he followed them. But if he followed them, he knows the taxi isn't there. Oh shit. Well, bye bye, Dobu. It was nice knowing you. Wow, they have known each other for a long time. It's his memory that's his superpower, not his smell. That's right. Do otters do that? This is just, I mean, just an awful, like, spiraling of situations. He is an awful person. Everyone is just awful. Wait, where did Tanaka go? Dobby? Because I'm pathetic. Because you care about what others think. Wow, wow. Dobby, why don't you just change careers? Become a counselor. Does this post automatically? Is this streaming? Yeah. Hmm. This is amazing. Yo. I mean, you kind of were. We're going to run through that advice line by line again later. I mean, what about use him as a human shield? I guess Tanaka just took off. Maybe that's part of it. I mean, that's probably true for everyone in the show. Hmm. I mean, and also like the nuances of domestic violence. I mean, I feel like it's love, but also it's just basic human decency to see another human being suffering and understand the reasons for it. It's like, stop looking at toxic stuff online. mean, that was some incisive like psychology from Dobu. Like being so concerned with yourself is actually a form of narcissism and hating yourself so much. Don't throw it away, resell it. What are you doing? I mean, I know he's not right in the head. Common sense went out in the end, but where did Tanaka sneak off to? Landlord? Hmm. I wonder if Odokawa imagines him as a gorilla because his name is Goriki. A broken windows theory. Wow. Okay, is that an actual puppy or is that a human child? Hmm. Since 5th grade. Hmm. I mean, closest thing to a friend. Unless they are dead. Oh, this ending is way too cheerful and colorful for this show. I guess yeah, we should have seen it coming that the stories that he told his friends, including Goriki, were, I guess, more idealized versions of what actually in reality had happened. So his parents must have died in the car accident that we saw flashbacks of in the beginning. And because of, I guess, his inability to accept that reality, that tragedy, it was just easier for Odokawa to pretend, lie to himself and to others that they just had abandoned him and that they're going to come back one day. Three episodes left, and we're still not closer to figuring out what happened to the missing girl and how she's related to Mystery Kiss. But I guess in these few episodes, we found out a lot more about Odokawa's story and what's going on with him mentally, and that big gap between what he holds in his mind to be reality versus, what actually happened in real life. I love that Dobu turned out to be like the best counselor that Taichi needed in that moment to kind of wake up and realign his life. Hating yourself is a kind of narcissism. I think I agree with that assessment. Most people don't crave attention to the same extent that Taichi did. It is a kind of sickness, although it is interesting to compare Tanaka's need for validation and attention from other people versus Taichi's, because it does seem that Taichi grew up in a lot more a privileged environment than Tanaka did. It just goes to show that obviously anyone from any background can suffer from some form of whether it's diagnosed as a mental health issue or whether it's just some serious problems with like how you think of yourself and how you relate to other people and with society. I don't know, are you guys more sympathetic with Tanaka's situation than with Taichi's, given Tanaka was dealt a tougher hand? Next video we'll come and talk about all of these details in more depth. Take care guys, and I'll see you next time.